Alrighty, friends, we're back. Your favorite podcast of the week. It's Location Weekly. It's episode number 647. We're recording on November the 28th. Yes, the month is almost done. And I guess the whole Christmas holiday season is upon us already, at least evidenced by, the stores and the malls that I've frequented in the last week. So it's everywhere. How are you doing, Aubrey?
I'm good. I had a really good Thanksgiving, good time with family, and this is like the home stretch for the year. So, like you said, all the holiday decor is out and just trying to like push through work wise and make it all happen, make all the magic happen. That's what we do, right?
That's what we do, yeah. So I don't know. I'm so like not into the season yet though. Like I can't. I don't know. Like I feel like it's just one of those years where I'm like, I'm not super excited yet. But I'll get there. I'll get there.
Yeah, we need some holiday cheer. Hopefully, it's coming our way.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have 4 stories for you this week, as usual.
Yeah.
A range of things that we're going to cover off. And Brianna, as always, we'll start it. Here we go.
Okay, well, speaking of some holiday cheer, maybe this is something that would cheer you up or one of your loved ones. AR experience at Coach. So now until January 1st, there's 5 stores that are offering a storefront AR experience, which is a little unique and different. Those locations are Boston, Atlanta, Austin, Texas, Miami, and Toronto. Toronto got in there. No,
I
New
know,
York.
like not even New York's in there. What's
Not
happening?
even New York is in there, so maybe you can go and tell me how
For
it
once,
looked.
for once, I
But
can.
so this was done in collaboration with a company called 010. And this AR storefront solution is, something that you can walk by and then you'll see different items. I'm assuming like bags and purses and wallets that are appearing along with the customer's body. And then there's like some holiday effects, special effects happening, like lights and snowman and all that jazz. So if you're not in one of those areas, however, and you really want the whole like experience, you are not completely out of luck if you have an Apple phone. If you have iOS, the 010 iOS app also offers this experience where you can kind of shop and try on different items in the store. This is coming off the heels of another AR campaign that Coach ran in the spring. And then last holiday season, they did this immersive virtual experience. So there seems to be a bit of a trend in Coach brand tapping into some of these new technologies around like, tentpole events such as the holidays. What I like about this one is that it's storefront. Like you don't have to go in, you don't necessarily have to scan anything. I think it's really fun. Like just being able to walk by, I think it kind of brings the store outside to the sidewalk. So I think this is a really powerful campaign around the holidays just to entice people or even get them to go shop online. So yeah, I think this is cool. I like the idea that this is outside the store almost. What do you think?
Yeah, I love it. I think I talked last week about sort of growing up here in Toronto and the Hudson's Bay Company, who's sort of headquartered here. It was always a tradition. You'd go downtown to the main big flagship store, which is on a major intersection, and Christmas they always had these like huge window displays of these Christmas animations and scenes and things happening, with little mechanical pieces and trains and all kinds of stuff. And, that continues now. And they're evolving to include AR and other things. So what I like about this, to your point, is this is kind of like, sort of echoing that same feeling of I can walk by the store, I can go by the window and experience a holiday experiences happening for me there. And maybe that entices me to come into the store. So I really like it from that point of view. I think the one thing that, when I see these kinds of things, though, like to me, especially like when I think about the Hudson's Bay one, it's a destination. It draws people year after year to bring their kids to see the window displays and all of that. I've seen similar, like I've been in Paris, during the Christmas season, and all the big sort of, department store retailers have these huge window displays, as well, with these Christmas scenes and whatnot. And it's something that you just kind of do with your family or with your kids, and you kind of come down there and kind of experience that. I think the one thing that would be cool here, and maybe it's in there, it wasn't in the story, is some way to kind of capture that and share that out on social media to amplify this further. I think would be great. Like if there's, an animated snowman that you can capture, maybe there's a way to scan a QR code that's, on this window as well, and, have that push it out, or maybe it's through this, 10 iOS app that you can do that. I don't know. But to me, like, if you're going to do this and you're going to create these great experiences for people, hopefully you can also amplify that on your social channels, and, have that be a way to draw other people to come down and kind of check it out as well. So I like it a lot, though.
There you go.
Okay. On to our second story now. So we're going to go over to Taiwan, where a bunch of companies have teamed up. So there's a company called Oriongo, another company called Fashion Intelligence Company, which is an IoT company, and then a company called Spatial, I think Topology, which is like spatial, but they separate the S and the P. Anyways, so they've all teamed up to create this, what they're calling a technology positioning alliance. And they're working with international telecom companies. And their first sort of deployment of this is around airport indoor positioning management service platforms. So they've got a sort of installation running at Changi Airport in Singapore. They're working in Thailand as well. And so the whole thing here is about, high accuracy, 3 meters or less indoor positioning, using, very little hardware. So they've got these sort of devices that you install on wheelchairs or trolleys, airport, transportation trolleys or golf carts, for moving people around, or anything to do with ground staff or maintenance staff or things like that at these airports. So this is all about asset tracking and kind of knowing where all that stuff is. And you can imagine in an airport, like I see this all the time. You probably see this all the time. We both travel a lot. There's a wheelchair left over here, and there's like a, cart left over there, and, stuff can easily go missing in a huge property like an airport. And I think the beauty of this is it doesn't need any kind of beacons or ultra wideband or camera analytics or things like that. They're using, cellular signals tied into this to create this sort of what they're calling infrared positioning, or infra-free, positioning. And it all runs on a Microsoft Azure cloud platform. So I think this is interesting. And like I said, they've got this initial installation at Changi Airport, which is, one of the biggest airports in the world, one of the coolest airports in the world. If you've never seen it, go. There's like a gazillion videos about this airport, and like, their environmental, awareness, and their, entire forest inside the airport and all this kind of stuff. So stuff can easily get lost, but I like that, the combination of this, and what these three companies have put together. And I guess the other thing I like about it too is just that is often you see, sort of a technology come out from a single, vendor that's out there that's launched this new system. But this is three companies coming together and saying, hey, like, we all have something to bring to the table here. Let's combine, our capabilities, and let's build something that's just world class, and, and showcase it at, one of the world's biggest airports. So I think this is interesting. We know the problem of asset tracking is a huge one, be it in airports, be it in hospitals, nursing homes, environments like that. So I think there's obviously a lot of applications for it. And if you can do that with, minimal hardware, and high accuracy, I think you're in a good place. So I like it.
Yeah, I like this too. I mean, I don't have a ton to add. I think that, there's a lot of things that get lost in the airport. People, wheelchairs, luggage, the airplanes themselves at times, it seems. So I think that anything that can make it run more seamless is really important. And I like the idea that it is less hardware heavy. And I think that's really important when you think about how do you service these things? How do you make sure that they're running all the time? It can be really difficult when you have a lot of hardware and software updates that need to happen all the time, and you need somebody on staff there to be able to do them. So I think that that's definitely a win here. So let's go over to the fragrance brand, beauty brand. AJo Malone has created a 3D illusion of a gingerbread house in London. So if you are in London, you can go visit this pop-up. It's at London's Battersea Power Station shopping destination, which, by the way, seems to be a hot spot for some beauty pop-ups and lots of like interactive experiences as a whole. But AJo Malone, interesting to know, is owned by Estee Lauder companies. And we always are talking about them. They're always doing like really fun campaigns. And I think that they're always pretty tech forward, which is really exciting. But this is located near the Glide Ice Rink, and they're also sponsoring that for the second year in a row. So they have this immersing experience, which is including an icing frosted walls, interactive displays. You can also take part in fragrance masterclasses there, and shop the brand's festive collection. So the gingerbread house itself has like this 3D illusion creative that's running on a big LED screen that fills one of the wall structures. And then inside there's this transparent LCD that's kind of hologram-ish, where people can take pictures on a green screen, and then it'll show you on the display with this giant gingerbread man. And the participants can even get postcard souvenirs with them and the gingerbread figure. So they've got, all the normal stuff like the fragrances and scented candles and skincare products of all those things. But, this is also coming off, I mentioned Battersea Power Station has had they did a 1950s themed beauty salon pop-up last month with MAC Cosmetics. Then AJo Malone also did a pop-up this pop-up is actually open until January 8th. So you have a little time if you want to go visit that. But yeah, it sounds like a fun experience, especially if you have women or girls or anyone at this point who wears makeup and fragrance. It might be something they want to go check out and experience. So there you go.
Yeah, I'd love to, from our sort of listeners over there in London, if you're in the area, I'd love to get some feedback on this, or even, send us a video or something. But yeah, I think this is great. And as you said, like this consistently, there's, all sorts of interesting, activations and pop-ups happening in the Battersea, environment there. I remember way back in the early days of the LBMA, we covered this campaign. You might remember with the animal shelter, Ariana, where there was this opportunity to showcase dogs that needed a home, and they had people from the shelter there handing out these pamphlets that had a little sensor in the paper, and then as you walk by the digital screen, the dog would basically pop up on the screen and bark at you, and then as you move through the mall closer to another screen, if you still had this pamphlet with you, the dog would chase you and follow you over there from screen to screen. So just it just lends itself to these kind of amazing activations and pop-ups in this way. So I love it from that point of view. Apparently on the LinkedIn post, story version of this, they also mentioned that in addition to the LED and LCD, hologram experiences, that there's also an incorporation of scent into this. So obviously, being a fragrance brand, if you can bring the scent into what you're doing, that makes a ton of sense. So I know they get souvenir postcards of their green screen experience. So again, to my earlier comment about the other activation, in this case, there is something you can take away from that with you, and maybe that postcard, I don't know, maybe they spray it with the AJo Malone or something, like like you get the little paper samples when you go into the cosmetic section. That would be kind of cool. I don't know if that's what they're doing, but I like the idea of creating experiences for people in these sites, in these environments. theming them around the holidays or whatever, is happening around there makes a ton of sense. And then, having some sort of way to sort of have it live on or travel with them, be it a pamphlet that with a dog that follows you, or a souvenir postcard with your image that's captured on the green screen and with the gingerbread man. I like that. It's something that, is a takeaway that's memorable, that can live on for a bit. So I like it from that.
I think it's like, for me, I think of all the like pop-ups and experiences that happen this time of year that are geared towards children. And I like that this is something that's geared towards adults, right? It's like an adult holiday experience. It can be fun. You can do some shopping, maybe sip a peppermint latte or whatever while you walk around with some friends. And I think it's fun. It's nice to have something that's geared towards us because it's always about the kids this time of year.
Always about those kids, those nasty kids, like that just get it.
Terrible.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Our final story now. So this one's kind of an interesting. This is more of like some data or report that I read recently that I thought would be interesting for our viewers and listeners out there. And it basically is kind of looking at since COVID, where is commuter traffic at right now in terms of people going back to work, and important and specifically sort of the impact that has on AM FM radio as we're driving our cars. As you know, at the LBMA, we always look at location-based marketing as this sort of intersection of people, places, and media, and we don't really care what media. It's where are you, and if you're driving your car, that's radio potentially. If you're in your home, it could be TV still. Like that's how we think about the world. And so, yeah, we've always had an eye on kind of what's going on in this space. But this new report that's out from Maru Matchbox and Advertiser Perceptions surveyed 1,000 adults, 18 plus, and 300 media agencies and brands to gather this data. And so essentially what it's netted down to is that 94% of pre-COVID commuters are now working outside the home. Which is up from just this past April. So that means that people are commuting back to work. 94% of the average Americans are now commuting to work. That's an increase of 87% over the last 3 years, like coming out of COVID. So that's huge growth. I know I can tell you from companies that people I know and companies I work with, especially big corporations. My brother-in-law works for one of the big 5 banks here in Canada. They just got told that they have to go back 4 days a week to the office. So it's definitely happening. And this means that we're in our cars, we're in transit, we're on the move again. And so that has an impact on sort of, the media that we're exposed to, along the way. And I think it's rather interesting to look at it from that point of view. So they say the average American is exposed more frequently to billboards, digital signage, out of home, and AM radio ads. And specifically when it comes to that, the average time spent in vehicles hit 45% high over the 8 years going back to 2016 to 2023. So 45% of people are listening to radio in their car, AM or FM radio, and that is the highest it's ever been in the last 8 years, matching only Q4 2019, where it was exactly the same. So that tells me that not only is it like people are commuting and doing and radio is reaching them. Even going back to 2016 or 2017, the rate at which we're reaching them is higher than it was then. So, like, to me, that's fascinating. And that speaks to, I know, like, I drive, to the office a few days a week. I have Sirius XM in my car, so I'm listening to that all the time. Now, that isn't necessarily, with advertising happening, but I do switch over to talk radio, news radio, along the way where I am getting ads, a certain period of time. So I think it's interesting to think about this, right? And then obviously if we're on the road, we're passing billboards, we're passing other forms of media. So I think it's interesting to just look at, the fact that we're commuting again, the traffic is back. Maybe, not quite the same yet on public transit. I don't know. I don't have those numbers in front of me. I know here in Toronto, we're not quite there yet. I saw a stat the other day that said we're about 82% of what we were pre-COVID on public transit usage. But it's coming back. And that just means that the opportunity for brands, for advertisers to get back in front of people as they're on the go is definitely there. And, we need to be capitalizing that. Any thoughts from you?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a crazy stat, like to know that more and more cars now have like Apple Play, Google Play, whatever, you connect your phone to it. And the fact that people are still tuning in to AM, FM radio is like, it's really impressive. And I think that it just goes to show that sometimes our behaviors are not as easy to change, and that, it's not always a replacement. So,
Yeah.
I think it's super interesting. And I mean, I traveled by car for Thanksgiving and did, listen to the radio quite a bit. So it's interesting just to know that is still around and is still an advertising mechanism and means. Not that podcasts and, other audio is not an opportunity to reach your consumer, but certainly it's not dead.
It's not dead. And I'll say this too, like just one last comment on it. So I drive a fairly new model Volvo SUV, and I had one before this. And the one thing that, it's essentially the same car, like the current model versus the one that I had like a few years ago, except for one thing. And the one thing that drove me crazy was there's no AM radio receiver in the car anymore. They took it out. There's only FM. And I was like, this is crazy, because I listen to sports radio. I listen to talk radio, when I'm in the car, especially sports. I like to tune into the baseball game. So now I have to go and download an app, like on the Google App Store, in my car, to just listen to talk radio. Like it's crazy. I don't know how much money you save removing an AM transmitter, but people still use them. And especially when it comes to things like emergency alerts and traffic and and weather and all those kinds of things, like you need it. So bad on you, Volvo. Fix that. Yeah. So anyhow, that's our show for this week. You've been listening and watching episode number 647 of Location Weekly. Thank you so much for your time. If you are in London and you can go check out the Battersea thing, send us a video. We'd love to hear more about it firsthand, or any of these things that we've talked about today. Give us some feedback, reach out to us, and we hope you have a good week. We'll see you next week with another show. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.